What's poppin', mi gente? Your boy's back with another video. Now, my last video was talking about the effect transitioning Dracula's first form to his second form, and I'm happy to announce that I have completed it. It's not 100% accurate, it's probably about 90-95% accurate, but that's about the best I think I'm going to get it. I will say that this effect was insidious, and that there was still more steps to it that had to be taken to replicate it. First, there's some blending being used. On Dracula 1 sprite, they use some orange blending, and on Dracula 2, they use a slight greenish-blue blending color. And that's why it was looking different than the results I was getting. They were looking very white and washed out. Also, and here was the big thing, they actually used two render textures. One for Dracula 1 sprites drawn over and over, and one for Dracula 2 sprites drawn over and over. That's why you'll notice in the original game, if you stare at it, you see a bunch of lines coming off them as an effect as if it's being scaled up. What I was trying to do before was I was trying to do them both to one render texture, and that was making the sprites look too smooth and perfect versus having those lines on them that make them look like they're growing in size. I'm not going to talk much more about that because I don't want to bore you guys to tears. There were a couple of other things I had to throw in, but it's suffice to say, I managed to finally replicate the effect. I've been working on it for the last couple of days. Of course, been working in between all that, but I probably put in a good several hours for 4 days working on this effect before I got it just right. Believe me, I had to check a lot of things, try a lot of different things, then I had to test it again to make sure it wasn't going to break under certain conditions, etc. And I have to say I'm happy with the results. I'll show you guys them shortly. First up, want to give a shout out to my newest Patreon, Gwendolyn. Thank you for your generous donation, as well as my boy Tommy L. He's a repeated PayPal supporter. Every so often, he pops up, drops me a little something something. Appreciate it, bro. Thanks for the continued support. And with that, let's go ahead and dive right in. I don't have a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to just get to the point. This video is going to go up with the changelog, but the changelog doesn't have much to say. I've basically been working on Dracula 1 and Dracula 2. Can't go into too many more details than that because I really don't want to spoil a surprise, so this is going to be a very sparse changelog. Short, sweet, to the point, basically. Okay, so now, before we get to the results, I first wanted to show you guys this image. The image on the left is how the effect normally proceeds if the game hasn't been hacked, no data has been corrupted, etc. It ends like this. You can see the white overlay zooming in on him, and at this point that overlay is going to zoom in. And as it zooms in and begins getting brighter and brighter, this effect in the background is going to fade out because Dracula 2 is placed in. You'll notice the one on the right looks a lot more bright and washed out. The reason is what I did was I froze it so that Dracula 1 sprite would continue being drawn over and over until the very end of the effect. At this point, this white overlay has already come and gone, and he's about to start disappearing. And I did this because I was still having a little trouble figuring out what exactly was going on here. With this much brightness and this much going on, I was able to now tell, and I was able to replicate it most of the way. So these little work pictures, as I call them, little work images, are very important because they really do help me to duplicate the effect, because once I was able to get this, having it look a lot more like this was pretty easy. Dracula 2 is pretty simple. He does have a mesh that does also have the bones moved around so his body's distorted some, but he was pretty easy to figure out. Corrupting some data, his body was pretty much set initially to match Dracula 1's, and then it stretched out into this form. That wasn't hard. There's some scaling up done on it, but that's about it. Dracula 2, though, to get all this brightness going without it looking horrible and making sure that it's still matched up with the nails here and the horns, which they did on purpose. The yellow parts of the nails, you'll notice, match up with the yellowish-brown parts of his skin. And you'll notice the horns, the yellowish part of them, matches up with these bright parts here as well. So it looks like it blends a bit better. Okay, so without much further ado, I'm going to go ahead and show you the Symphony of the Night version, and then I'm going to show you mine. And one more time. And here are my results.
Give me power!
And one more time.
Give me power!
So that's what I came up with. I will tell you guys up front that while it looks like this is just two objects here, each of these objects has a mess of other things under them. From the mesh with the 17 bones to a plane with the additive sprite drawn, a black plane so that it doesn't look so washed out, because keep in mind, Symphony of the Night's an older game. Technology's upgraded and gotten a lot better now, so reproducing an effect like this that obviously looks a bit retro required a little bit of extra work on my part. Of course, these two planes are captured by a camera. It's then drawn to a render texture. And underneath all that is Dracula 1's all black sprite. Now, for the other one, for Dracula Form 2, similar thing. I have a mesh here with the 17 bones. I have a plane that draws the sprite additively, and then a black one that draws it behind that. So again, it doesn't look too washed out. And then those planes are drawn by the camera to a render. And here's the white overlay. Sound effects are attached. Down here, I attached Dracula 2 sprite for the end result because Dracula 2 himself isn't coded in yet, so you guys can see how it all looks when it comes together. Now, that already looks like enough of a mess if I, dig into all the child objects in each of these. But I'll tell you up front, they each also have an animation that, as you can see, is pretty expansive. The good news is, unlike in Game Maker where I was spending hours scripting all this, I was able to do everything I needed in Mecanum itself for each of the objects. The bad news is I've never seen Unity crash so much in my life as I have here. Something with this newer version and Mecanum is really gumming up the works when I run the game. Now, that won't be an issue when you actually play it because I won't be using the editor, but it still kicks me in the ass how an effect like this got slowed down so much by just Unity. Just whatever they're doing development wise, they need to get their shit together because it's aggravating as hell and really slowed me down. But that's the end results I have there. Really not much more to say about this. Check out the changelog if you want to see the details for whatever else is going on. Hopefully you guys like this update. You like what you see. If anybody has any critiques, advice, anything like that, leave it in the comments down below. Again, I recommend leaving your comments on Patreon, because YouTube comments, I rarely see them. Usually I glance at it if I like it. I hit, the like or the heart button or whatever it's called, and I move on with my day. But YouTube, I really don't have the time to be checking it. If you're not a Patreon supporter, go join right now. A lot of these videos have become Patreon only exclusives, as I feel like they should regularly get updates, and everybody else, well, I just kind of put it out there out of the kindness of my heart for them to see it. If you want to make a one-time donation, you can do it via PayPal. Links will be down below. If you want to join the forums, Facebook group, any of that stuff, again, links will be down below. That's it. I'm going to keep this short, sweet, to the point. Appreciate all the support I've been getting from everybody. Hope you're all staying safe. Hope you're all staying healthy, and I'll talk to you all soon. Peace.